Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful high-low gown you are seeing right there on the thumbnail. So here I have a small scale dress form. So I actually used the dress form to sew this beautiful gown. Of course, you can see the high-low effect on this dress. So if this is what you want to learn, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial. So to begin this tutorial, I'm using Ankara and plain cotton, but I will advise you to work with a stretchy fabric or a light fabric so the flay will flow out very well. So I'm using 2 yards of men fabric for the bodice and 1 yard for the flay. So if you are making this dress, just use 2 yards and 1 yard. Okay, 2 yards will be for the bodice including the sleeve, and 1 yard will be for the flay. So you can alternate your fabric, plain on the body and design on the flay, or the other way. So I've already placed my my fabric, that is my zipper line, and the center front is on fold. So that is the zipper line. So I'm going to mark 1 inch for my zipper right now, and I'm going to highlight my line. So just fold your 2 yards of fabric and mark out the zipper allowance. The center front will be on fold, so you've placed it on the center zipper line, and create your border line of 1 inch. So we are going to take our vertical measurements from the shoulder. So the first vertical measurement is my chest line. I have my chest line at 9 inches. So I'm going to mark 9 inches. I have my waistline at 17 inches. I'm going to mark 17 inches. And I have my hip line at 27 inches. I will mark 27 inches. And the full length of this gown is on the knee. I have 41 inches. So just go ahead and impute your measurements. I added 1 inch for hemming. That is the last line I created. So I'm highlighting the lines right now, so it will be visible for you to see. So after that, we want to start off imputing the neckline. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 8 inches. I'm going to mark it, and I included ½ inch for seam allowance. So make sure you add ½ inch to your shoulder. My neck width is 4 inches. The neck depth is 1 inch for the back, and for the front the neck depth is 4 inches. So I'm using 4 by 1 for back and 4 inches by 4 inches for the front. So neckline is by choice. So just go ahead and create your neckline the way you desire. So I will use it using my pattern master to create the neckline. So after creating the neckline, we are going to impute the armhole line. So I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder drop, and I'll connect it to the neckline. Then I'm going to take the measurement of my shoulder divided by 2 plus ½ inch seam allowance on the chest line to create my armhole. So I'll mark a straight line. After that, I'll place my tape from the shoulder drop and mark the midline. So from the midline, I'll come in by ½ an inch for the back armhole and 0.75 for the front. So I'm going to connect the lines now. So after that, you will take your bust circumference divided by 4 and mark right there. Then you can now complete your armhole with your curve ruler. So the back armhole and the front armhole, I'm going to mark them accordingly. Then I'll go over to the waist and take my waist circumference divide by 4. And then I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance for the bust area and 1 inch seam allowance on the waist area as well. There is no dart to this dress at all, so just use a fabric that stretches, okay? Then on the hip, divide by 4. Circumference of hip divide by 4. I marked and I added 1 inch seam allowance too. So I will pick up what I have on the waistline, including the seam allowance, and take away 1.5 inches from the hip and mark. So I took away 1.5 because it's a pencil gown. So I'm going to connect my lines right now from the hem to the hip, from the hip to the waist, including their seam allowances, and from the waist to the bust or chest line. So after marking, we are going to contour the zipper area. So at the waistline, I'll come in by 0.75 for my zip contour line. So I'll measure inwards 0.75 or 3/4. Then I'm going to mark a straight line to the back neckline and mark to the waistline. So this is exactly what you are going to do on your main fabric. So I'm going to cut out the contour line, but we are going to replace this contour line on the side to avoid shortage. So I will also mark 3/4 or 0.75. Then if you look at it, this area on the chest line, I have 0.5 that I need to replace there. So I will mark it on the side, and then I'll connect it to the from chest line to the waistline. And on the hip line, nothing is replaced. You can see is we still have our zipper allowance of 1 inch. So I'll connect it directly to the hip. So here the gown is very much ready. So I'm going to cut out from the back right now. So I'll first cut the back neckline, add 1/2 inch seam allowance on the seam line. Okay, so I just added 1/2 inch right now. Then I'll go ahead and cut the back armhole. So I'm cutting the back first before we cut the front. Then I'll follow the replacement of the back contour line for the back and cut. Then I'm going to cut out from the hem line. So I will cut out the contour line right now too. So the gown is ready. So though it's a small scale, but you can see it's looking very beautiful right here. So I'm cutting the front neckline as well. After cutting the front one, I'll cut the armhole for the front. And then we are going to cut the actual shape of the front before we added our contour, replaced our contour line. So now the dress is ready. The next is to place the center, the back dress, and sew the shoulder seam line. So I'll bring in the back dress now. So you can go ahead and create a facing, or you can use a bias. So if you are using a stretchy fabric, you can just create a facing or crepe. If you want a lining too, you can do a full lining for it. Then stitch the same lines on the side. So the main purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to go about the high-low, not actually how to sew a gown. So I'm done stitching the size of this dress at 1 inch, and the shoulder seam lines are ready. So I will now open up the dress, spread it open. Here comes the main tutorial. Just spread it very open. As you can see, the whole dress should be spread open. And this is the hip line. Just extend the hip line because we are going to work with it, as you can see. So after spreading the hip line, I'm going to locate the center front of this dress. So I will pick up my tape from one end to the other. This is the center front. So from the center front, just mark 3 inches away from the center front or 4 inches away from the center front. I will do the same, 3 inches or 4 inches. So the total will give me 6 inches or 8 inches, depending on if you are using 3 or 4 inches. So after that, I'm going to come to the hip line. From the hip line, I'll come up by 1 inch and mark. And from the center back, I will come in by 1 inch for my zipper. and from the zipper line I'm going to mark 3 inches or 4 inches, exactly what I did on the front. Then I will mark. I'll come over here, mark 1 inch zipper allowance, come in by 3 inches or 4 inches depending on what you are using for the front. So after that, I'll come to the hip line on the other side, come up by 1 inch as well. Then create a curve. Just mark a beautiful curve on your dress like this. Just curve it as you can see me do right there. So after curving it, you can see the beautiful curve right there. So that is where we are going to sew our high-low flare for this dress. So I will also repeat the same exercise on the other side. So on the other side, I'll also curve into from hip to the hem and from hip to the hem like that for the front. So you can see. So the next thing we want to do now is to take the measurement of that curve. Just go around that curve. So whatever measurement you have will serve as the length of your flare. Okay, so the measurement of the both are the same, so it has to be the same. Okay, so whatever measurements you have, for a big scale it will be about 30 or 30 something inches, but just go ahead and take that measurement. So I will now cut my fabric, my plain fabric now, which will serve as flare, but I will prefer to use a crepe or a lycra fabric that is light, will give you that flare effect very beautifully well. So I will place my fabric on fold to cut what I measured there, divide by 2. So if you have 30, divide by 2 will give you 15 inches. It's because it's on fold. Then the length is at 13 inches. 13 inches, 14 inches is standard for this dress, okay? So unless you want to make it a little more longer. So I'll just measure the length at 13 inches right now. Like I'm working on a small scale. So, but if you're working on a big scale, 13 inches is good. So I'm going to cut out what I have right here, okay? What I measured by 13 inches. That will be a square or rectangle fabric like this. That is what we are going to use for the flare. So after cutting it out, this is only one piece for one side of the flare. I'm going to place what I have here now. I'll place it on my fabric again, so I'll be able to cut out the other side of the flare as well. So just go ahead and cut exactly the same measurements. So I have 2 of them, as you can see. So I bring in my dress on the part I curved right now. So I'm going to invert it. I'll show you how to sew it. This is how it's supposed to be, but I will sew it the other way. I will invert it and sew. So I will also advise you first hem this dress. Hem the dress first. I mean the hem part of it. Finish it up the way you want before you sew this dress, because after sewing this flare part, you will not be able to hem it again. So here you can see I've inverted and stitched, and this is what I have right here. So this dress is actually very beautiful. So the next is to come at the center back and stitch close from the part you are going to sew your zipper. Okay, so I'm talking about the hemming. Make sure you hem before you stitch. But for illustration purpose, I did not hem. So I will now go ahead and stitch the zipper close to the point of my zipper, leaving the zipper part open. Okay, so I will attach my zip at that point. So I'm done sewing the zip right now. I'll turn the whole dress at the front right now. So if you use a light fabric for this flare, you will actually enjoy the flow of this flare. So you can see our dress is beautiful, although it's on a small scale dress. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment on the comment section and your suggestions as well. You can go ahead and sew your sleeve. The sleeve is not a problem. As you can see, it's just a high-low sleeve. So thank you for coming, and see you in the next class. Bye.